Hi, I'm Marie Bliston, President of the New Jersey Education Association. The NJEA is committed to celebrating excellence in education. That's why we're so proud to support Teacher Appreciation Week, a special series produced by the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating New Jersey's talented and dedicated teachers.
Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the New Jersey Education Association, Wells Fargo, the Northward Center, New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor. Insurance fraud costs New Jersey families $1,300 a year. And by St. Joseph's Health, a passion for healing. It's what's inside us. Promotional support provided by NJ.com. Small news, big news, true Jersey. And by ROINJ, informing and connecting businesses in New Jersey.
This is One-on-One. I'm an equal American just like you are.
The jobs of tomorrow are not the jobs of yesterday.
Look at this. You got this?
Here it is, man. Look at that.
Life without dance is boring.
I don't care how good you are or how good you think you are, there is always something to learn.
Do you enjoy talking politics?
No.
People call me because they feel nobody's paying attention.
Our culture, I don't think, has ever been tested the way it's being tested right now.
Such a good question. High five.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. This is One-on-One. We're coming to you from the Agnes Vera studio at NJTV. It is our honor and pleasure to talk leadership with Amani Jennings, Dean of Students, Georgian Court University. Good to see you.
Good to be seen. Good to see you.
You and your colleagues focus on leadership a lot, the concept of being a servant leader. What does it mean?
Servant leadership is a term that was coined in the 70s by Robert Greenleaf. And essentially, a servant leader is a leader who is servant first. So the question that a servant leader is asking him or herself is, do those I'm serving grow? Are they being served? Are they wiser? Are they healthier? A servant leader is looking to serve the needs of those that he or she is serving before considering the leadership aspect.
That's
so it's
hard.
servant first. It is.
It requires empathy, compassion, what Dr. Daniel Goleman calls emotional intelligence,
Emotional intelligence, absolutely.
Easier said than done?
Absolutely easier said than done. But we believe at Georgian Court that, because not only are we trying to teach these skills so that these students can have great experiences while they're in college, but these are also skills that translate into the workplace. We know there's a ton of research that speaks to employers. They are looking for graduates to not only have the skill sets to have the degree that they want in that particular field, they want them to have internship experience, but they also want them to have leadership experience. And that's because, leadership experience speaks to all of those intangibles that a degree in biology may not. We know that if someone has leadership skills and ability and experience, that person can communicate, that person can articulate, that person can meet challenges, face challenges. You can put that person in a room of people and they can navigate and network. So those are skills. So even with our servant leadership initiatives, it's not just us looking to create a great environment while they're on campus. We're looking to develop students who are going to be able to compete in the workforce.
It's interesting, the concept of leadership.
Sure.
Studying, thinking about it, writing about it, teaching it. And also this will be seen on our podcast radio show, Leadership Hour. Check that out. What I'm curious about is your opinion. I ask a lot of people about this. I want to ask you, do you believe the greatest leaders, greatest servant leaders, born, made, what?
I think it's a combination of both. I think generally, I do not think that I do think that leaders can be made. I don't think only leaders are born. I think you can be trained and taught to be a leader.
You do?
I do.
So people like Dr. King, right? We actually have a program, our Stand and Deliver Leadership Development Program, honors someone every year with the Dr. Martin Luther King Leadership Award. And I often think about Dr. King, the gift that he had to communicate, to connect with others. Yeah. And I think he also came from a background in the church. And I thought, was he born to do that? On part, yeah. But look how much he learned in his only short 39 years about leadership from mistakes he made, right?
Yeah. And Dr. King, to me, is probably personifies servant leadership.
Absolutely.
And so there were certain things that I think, certain skills he had that he was probably born with. I mean, there are a lot of great leaders, but how many great leaders can speak as eloquently as Dr. King? So I think there were some skills that he had that were just innate. But if you know the history behind the scenes, some of the things that were going on, you know, leadership was not something that came easy to him. It was difficult.
A lot of people did not want him to be the leader.
Absolutely.
You know, didn't believe in his approach. We forget that a lot of times, right?
Yeah. I mean, during the time of his death, he had his own followers who were saying that he was not doing enough. You had a certain segment of the black community who felt that he was doing too much or that his approach was not where it should have been.
There were people who said, don't be talking about the Vietnam War, stay out of that, it's not your business.
Yeah.
I mean,
and now we praise him.
Help us on this. There's a Servant Leadership Summit, and it is, in fact, connected to Dr. King's birthday, right?
Correct. The Servant Leadership Summit grew out of our Leadership Summit, which is our MLK Day of Service. But we are now kind of moving towards focusing on servant leadership, so moving forward, it will be a Servant Leadership Summit. But that is something that we do annually at Georgian Court. This year we had about 100 students, our own students, and we had about 5 other schools that sent representatives to come and join us. It wasn't the best day weather-wise, so there were a few schools who just were not able to make it. But it was an awesome day. We had a keynote speaker, we had workshops, we did service activities and had a service fair. So it was a great day.
Before I let you go.
Sure.
In Washington. By the way, check out State of Affairs and Think Tank, our other 2 series, to talk about Washington and Trenton and politics and policy. Leadership, great servant leadership, hard to find in Washington these days. So the question is this, is it more important than ever before that you get your students ready?
Well, that's exactly why we're focusing on servant leadership, because, you know, a couple years ago when there were a lot of protests on campus, a lot of hate groups showing up on college campuses, we had a town hall meeting at Georgian Court. I had an honor of serving on that meeting, on that town hall group with President Marbach. And one of the questions,
Dr.
Joe Marbach, absolutely. And one of the questions,
who's a political scientist by background.
Yes. So he was able to talk a lot about constitutional law and freedom of speech and those kind of things. And a question that came up was, how can we speak out against some of what we're seeing, some of the hate and the darkness that's being that we're seeing more of? And my answer was, and my answer is servant leadership. If we can train our students to be listeners, to have empathy, self-awareness, build communities, commitment to others, and then unleash them into society, I think that we'll all be the better for that.
Amani Jennings is Dean of Students at Georgian Court University. I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Well said. This is One-on-One. I'm Steve Adubato. We'll be right back.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
Steve Adubato here. You know, one of the many great things about One-on-One is we speak to the most extraordinary educators anywhere in the state and nation. Yeah, that's you. I'm talking about you. Molly Ziegelstein is a kindergarten teacher at Fernbrook Elementary, based?
Randolph,
New Jersey. Now, you're born and raised right in that area.
Yep, Succasunna.
Can you spell it?
Succasunna.
I'm so impressed. You teach kids, and there are 5-ish? 5 to 6?
Times 3.
What?
About 15, 18 kids per class every year.
No, I meant age-wise.
Oh.
15, 18, okay. We can do this. I swear we can.
Yep, 5, 6-year-olds.
Did you always say to yourself, before we run a clip, this is part of our classroom close, well, the classroom close-up initiative, produced, and it's been making a big difference in the public television world for many years with the New Jersey Education Association. We're about to show a clip from you in a minute, but did you always want to be a kindergarten teacher?
Kindergarten definitely was not on my radar when I thought of going into the teaching profession, but I did always want to be a teacher. I was surrounded by wonderful educators all throughout my education, and that's definitely why I went to education.
Well, this clip you're about to see from Classroom Close-Up talks about this initiative. A lot of it's about choice time and dealing with our kids who, at incredibly young ages, dealing with anxiety, dealing with pressures, dealing with stress. Listen, isn't there enough time to do that later on? You know. Well, this is Classroom Close-Up. Check it out.
Children and playtime. 2 images that should go hand in hand when you think of kindergarten.
That's one window.
My earliest memory of being kindergarten is coming in and coloring and learning how to cut.
But the fact is, kindergarten has changed quite a bit.
Today, we're asking children to learn to read and learn to write and so much more. There's been just such a shift, I think, from the time that I was in school. I was stunned at the pressure that was put on these little 5- and 6-year-olds.
And that stress on young children can have devastating effects.
Research was showing that later in life, these kids that had such pressure at 5 and 6 had really, really adverse outcomes like suicide and depression and stress because they didn't have a chance to be a kid. And so we decided, how are we going to change that in our district? And play was the answer. Boys and girls, we know that choice time goes. Choice time is an hour of play that fosters social emotional development for students. More importantly, choice time is a time for kids to be kids and take risks without a consequence. All right, friends, what are our three this week?
Post office, nail
We will all sit
salon.
together in a circle and they come up with ideas that they want to play that week. Then they'll make a proposal, they'll plan out what they're going to do.
So you guys are working on your proposal?
Yeah.
What's your proposal? What are you guys doing? Oh, nail salon.
Do we have string yet? No.
Typically, it'll take 2 to 3 days for them to actually build what their center looks like and build all the different pieces of their center.
Right. Can you dip your fingers?
And then they play. They assign roles to each person in the group.
Okay, how do I get my nails done? Wait, what color are we doing?
Yeah. Red.
Red?
You
Okay.
can't. That's
Oh,
color.
thank you. This is the change?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So let's pause, take a moment to meet with your group to discuss what we're going to talk about during crowd share. We have them stop and they take time to reflect on what they did that day. And I'll try to refer back to what we talked about when we met before they started playing. How about we start with the nail salon?
We are proud of that we work together and we share.
I have noticed a huge change in students once implementing choice time. Bottom line is that there's less stress. Giving them this outlet to just be kids has reduced the amount of stress and anxiety that I have seen in the past. And it's just an incredible thing to see and be able to offer to our students.
Maybe you guys want to sit and eat now.
Just incredible. By the way, we saw our friend Sean Spiller, who's one of the executives, one of the leaders of the NJEA, my neighbor in the town of Montclair. He was having a good time. They were having a good time. How much of a good time do you have?
It's awesome just to be able to see kids be kids and in such a relaxed environment and let them grow as people at this little age during play.
What are the differences you see, some of the biggest differences you see in these kids?
I think the biggest takeaway that kids walk away from is they find their voice in kindergarten through play. They find who they are, and because we're able to give them this relaxed environment and this fun playtime, we are able to increase academic rigor. So it's a great thing to be able to give them this time to let out and be a child and have this have the playtime, and then we're able to increase academic rigor because they're not stressed, they don't have anxiety, they're in such a relaxed environment.
What's it like for you? Clearly cares so much about kids. When you see a kid really stressed, really feeling a degree of anxiety that he or she should just not experience at 5 or 6 years of age, what's it like for you?
You just want to take all their worries and it away, and we are able to offer that to them in just multiple ways. Let them explore and let them choose. Giving them choice empowers them to really rise to the occasion and do what's good for them and discover themselves and their different learning styles and what they do best.
What's causing a lot of the stress? I mean, I know a lot of kids are dealing with divorce in their families. They're dealing with academic pressures, right? What else is going on for them?
I think it was in their peers, peer groups and.
Oh boy, are you talking about? I'm sorry for doing this. Our daughter Olivia is 7, turning 8 as we do this program. She talks about who her friends are, but then she's not friends with these other kids because they don't want to be friends with her, and that's stressful.
Right, like even at 5, we see that, but fostering really within choice time, we get a good sense of community and bringing them together. I feel like that's totally.
No clicking, no clicks.
You would think. I feel like having this program enables them to really just form a community and get rid of that whole idea of cliques and all that.
Break some barriers down.
For sure. Yeah.
Choice time any different from your experience between little boys, little girls?
At the beginning of the year, for sure, you definitely have, boys are in blocks and girls are in kitchen and doing dramatic play. As the year progresses, each child really focuses in on what their hobbies are and what their likes and dislikes are, and really you see them come together. And we have, in the clip you just saw, we had a post office and we had nail salon and restaurant, all mixed, children mixing in and doing what they love. So
I don't know why it was
they definitely progress, I would say.
You ever ask kids what they want to do when they grow up?
The first day of school every year.
You do?
Yep.
I remember our daughter when she was 5. She's in kindergarten in the great Montclair public school system. Mm-hmm. I said, Olivia, what do you want to be when you grow up? And apparently she had just been with my wife at a nail salon. She said, I want to be a nail saloner. So I said, what's a nail saloner? And she said, someone who owns. It was a made-up word, obviously. But it was fascinating. She somehow remembers that, getting kids to talk about who and what they want to be.
Right. I think also through choice time, a lot of the children bring in their outside experiences. So like if they were at Costco over the weekend, they come in and they're building up a Costco. And that's their world. Right. And also it really is fostering this idea of like social capital and being a good citizen and what that means to contribute to your community. So when they go out and we see that they want to be a postman or
woman.
Yeah, postman or woman.
You teach leadership, team building, social skills.
Problem solving is huge. So it's awesome to be able to see that. And I really do feel like this is a foundation for what they're going to end up being later on in life.
So Molly, I'm sure people are tired of me saying this, but I'm going to say it to you anyway. On behalf of all the parents with children who have benefited greatly from the public schools and from the exceptional public school educators like yourself, I just want to say thank you. I know I speak for a lot of people out there. Keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
You're making a difference.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Hopefully we're making a difference. We'll be right back with One-on-One right after this.
To watch more One-on-One with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
Hi, I'm Steve Adubato. We're coming to you from the North Ward Center in Newark, New Jersey, part of a conversation we're having, a series we're doing on autism. It's called A Different Way of Thinking. We're honored to be joined once again. He's been with us many times, Dr. Shereef Elnahal, Commissioner of the Department of Health in New Jersey. Good to see you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Steve.
The role of the department, the role of the state when it comes to helping those dealing with the autism challenge is?
It's a really important topic, Steve, and I appreciate you bringing these group of folks together who focus on it. New Jersey is one of the states that has among the highest autism rates in the country. 1 in 34 children in New Jersey are diagnosed with autism. Part of that is because we have systems in place that actually allow us to diagnose it more reliably than a lot of other states. But we have to do something about it. And so we have a lot of services at the state level that allow us to do that. Broadly speaking, autism is a condition of social functioning, delay in normal social behavior that you would expect from a child. And we have systems in place that allow us to detect that earlier than most states in New Jersey.
So let me ask you, we have one of our guests, by the way, the Commissioner is joining us on a 10-person panel discussion here at the North Ward Center talking about this issue. And one of your colleagues from up at Montclair State, you'll meet her, Dr. Catalano, who said it's a good thing on some level that New Jersey diagnoses at a higher rate than other states. Because?
Well, the earlier you detect autism, the more you can do about it, and very importantly, the more you can support the families that have children with autism.
What do they need?
So they need a lot of support and understanding, number one, how to deal with behavioral changes in their child and allow them to thrive and be as successful as they can be in school, because all of that matters in terms of their education, in terms of their ability to transition into adulthood. And so the earlier you know, the earlier you can get that child the right services. And luckily, New Jersey has programs in place that allow for that. So we have the early intervention system, for example, that provides families with support that they need to help children transition.
What is the early intervention system?
The early intervention system is actually a system of services where the Department of Health, our department, provides funding to provider agencies across the state that actually go into homes across New Jersey and assist families with children who have autism.
What age are we talking about?
We're talking about as early as 2 years old.
As early as 2?
You can detect autism.
I'm sorry.
you can detect autism as early as 2. These services can actually be provided at age 1 or older. So over 50% of children in our autism registry, we're only one of 8 states, by the way, that has a registry, which is good news because we can do a lot of good research with that, have gotten services in our early intervention system.
It's interesting you mentioned the early intervention system. The other time, last time you joined us, I believe in our series State of Affairs, I talked to you about one of our other initiatives called Right from the Start NJ, dealing with birth to 3 challenges that our infants and toddlers have. Infants and toddlers who are dealing with or struggling with autism, part of that discussion.
Absolutely. So the early intervention system is for any type of developmental disability. So like you said, it can start at birth when there is a recognition that a child has a disability. But what the early intervention system allows for is to alert providers, pediatricians, the healthcare system that a child may have autism as they continue their services. And so that's one of many reasons why we're able to detect autism on average at a younger age than most states. Our average is about 4 years old for detecting autism, which is earlier than the vast majority of states.
Commissioner, fast forward. The whole question of aging out, is it 21? Is that the age?
Yeah.
What is the difference between how the state sees its responsibility, particularly your department? I know there are other state departments that are part of this complex mix of services on a state level. But here's the question. What changes at 21 for someone struggling, dealing with autism in terms of what the state provides or doesn't?
Yeah, the biggest issue is that there's a whole host of services that have been built over decades. Advocacy groups have been on the ground, Autism New Jersey, and so many others that have provided services to children throughout the years. Because we're getting better at treating autism and providing services for children with autism, more of them are able to transition into adulthood. And so people often speak of a cliff, falling off a cliff of services available
at
once
21?
People reach the age of 21. Now, New Jersey is different in the sense that that's been anticipated, and the New Jersey Department of Human Services in particular has an Office of Autism that is providing unprecedented services for people transitioning into adulthood. So that's my colleague Carol Johnson and her department.
Commissioner.
Yeah,
Commissioner Johnson. The governor's cabinet.
Exactly. And the other thing is our advocacy organizations have already thought about this and are doing great work. Autism New Jersey in particular, I know that Suzanne Buchanan will be in our panel.
She's part of it.
Coming up, has come up with a really great training program that involves parents, it involves advocacy organizations, case management agencies, and providers, bringing them together, teaching best practices and helping people transition into adulthood who have autism.
Let me ask you this, Commissioner. Because you also have a clinical background, and you've dealt with families, dealing with all kinds of difficult, challenging clinical, medical issues, health issues. What I'm curious about is public attitudes about not only a 12-year-old on the autism spectrum, but his or her family. To what degree do you believe societal attitudes, I've asked this of a lot of guests, to what degree do you believe societal attitudes toward those dealing with autism and their family members has in any way evolved or changed?
I think it's evolving in a positive direction, Steve, but there's a lot of room to grow. First and foremost, awareness about the issue. Programs like this, panels like the one that's coming up, are really important because people need to be aware that children with autism are being diagnosed more frequently, that their child may have a classmate with autism, and behavioral changes may be noticed in friends and family, so that not only people would be able to detect it in their own families, but they can be sympathetic and understand when another child with autism comes into their life in one way or the other. So it's really important.
Doctor, are you an advocate of children with autism being in a classroom with other children who are not on the autism spectrum?
So children with autism do need specialized services. It's why we have the early intervention system. It's why we have great case management services in every county in New Jersey. As much as possible, we do try to insert, with the right services, children with autism in as many common environments as possible. And so if they can thrive in a classroom, they should be in a classroom with other students who may not have autism. But all of that is individualized because autism is a spectrum. The DSM-5, which is the most recent diagnostic manual.
DSM is diagnostic.
It's a diagnostic manual for psychiatric disorders and developmental disorders.
So the term, the autism spectrum, break it down in layperson's language.
Absolutely. So a spectrum is basically a gradient from, not as severe to severe. And they're used to be classified into 3 different categories of autism. Now it's considered one spectrum because of so much variation you see in patients. But the most mild forms of the autism spectrum can be diagnosed as late as 7 or 8 years old because the symptoms are more mild. When you get into the more severe, you often diagnose it earlier because changes are noticed earlier by family and by physicians and providers. So the idea is that every child is their own child. They're individuals. And they have their own, characteristics in terms of the disease. So we really have to cater our services and our thinking in a much more individualized basis.
Commissioner, we appreciate not just this one-on-one in-depth interview with you, but also the fact that you're joining this very prestigious and distinguished panel talking about autism, a different way of thinking. The fact that we're thinking it all and talking about it is important. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Steve.
One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation, celebrating over 30 years of broadcast excellence. Funding for this edition of One-on-One with Steve Adubato has been provided by the New Jersey Education Association, Wells Fargo, the Northward Center, New Jersey Sharing Network, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, the New Jersey Office of the Insurance Fraud Prosecutor, and by St. Joseph's Health. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
Autism is one of the fastest-growing developmental disorders in the U.S. Here in New Jersey, 1 in every 41 children is diagnosed with autism. And when a child is diagnosed with autism, every member of the family is affected. While there currently is no cure for autism, early detection and intervention can offer critical improvements for the child and tremendous benefits for the family. To learn more about autism, contact the Binder Autism Center at St. Joseph's Children's Hospital.